if you really don't give up, like you may have to work harder for longer, but if you just keep working harder for longer, you'll get to that point eventually. Ego is the killer of 99% of deals from what I found. I've seen my friends who own other restaurants just go belly up because ego. And it's absolutely incredible to watch what that one small thing just annihilates someone's whole worth.
So, Sean, we were talking a little bit about management, leadership, and what does it mean to be somebody in your role. Maybe you can give us a quick history before we dig into some of these rabbit holes about who you are, your entrepreneurial journey. Give us the real stuff, not just the all rah rah raz, good
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
Tell me a story, man, about you.
Oh man. So I learned a lot about leadership actually through hospitality. One of my early mentors, his name was Justin, and he taught me about something called servant leadership. And from there, I really took all those lessons to heart. Long story short, which we can get into the long version here.
Yep.
Right after high school, I tried a semester of community college. Was not for me. I just didn't, me and homework just never got along. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try and figure this out. I ended up actually started out serving and cleaning tables at some restaurants in Old Town Scottsdale. And over the next 10 years, I worked up all the way to regional managers, general managers, bar managers, bartenders. So I kind of worked my way up from the bottom of the totem pole to overseeing some pretty high operations and running, multi-million-dollar restaurants. And so along that way, I learned all about servant leaderships, how to handle people's emotions, because that's all basically leadership is how well can you work with somebody to get the job done.
Yeah, dude, that's leadership in a nutshell. And servant leadership is an important aspect of that. Did you have an entrepreneurial family? Did they freak
No,
out when you dropped out of college? Did you not fit the mold anymore? Were you the
right. I was
redheaded
always the black
stepchild?
sheep. Yeah, I was always the black sheep of my family. My family, they're not, I wouldn't say entrepreneurs, but my dad has been in real estate for almost 40 years now. So,
Okay.
kind of, quote, eat what you kill, commission only, sales only, no salary for the past 40 years. So, entrepreneurship in the sense of he had to get to work every single day, work through the biggest recession in the United States history, like all this stuff. So he, housing recession, I should say. And, he went through all of these times. So yes, he was an entrepreneur, but in the sense of, real estate sales.
Yeah, that's cool because it taught you, I'm sure, the ins and outs of business. I would suspect you had some conversation around the dinner table or life that led
Oh
you
yeah.
to a different way of thinking, maybe because just listening to dad talk about real estate would have been an up and down conversation, I suspect.
Oh, it was. Yeah. I mean, growing up, I remember listening to square footage at the dinner table and thinking, God, that's horribly boring. Who wants to do this?
Yeah.
Now here I am, my main career 14-ish years later is real estate. I love it. I get to work alongside my dad every single day. My family, my wife is in the business, my sister's in the business, my mom's in the business. My uncle, my whole family is under the umbrella of real estate. So it truly is super rewarding in that aspect. But I can tell you, I never in a million years thought I would be doing that. That's for sure. But
Yeah.
it taught me resilience. Honestly, that's kind of the biggest thing here is just the risk of being cheesy of don't give up. I can't tell you how many times I was just an inch away from failure, but watching my dad go through, the 2008 crisis, high sales, low sales and everything, doing what he could to keep food on our table taught me of, man, if you really don't give up, like you may have to work harder for longer, but if you just keep working harder for longer, you'll get to that point eventually.
Yeah, and that's true. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it's still the truth. And hopefully, people who are listening to this get it finally through their heads because we have a similar
Yeah.
story.
Well, and that's the
That,
thing. It's like that's the main, in my opinion, that's the main part of the umbrella. Work hard. And then
yeah.
underneath the umbrella, you have all your support systems of how to be servant leader, contract negotiations, what you need to do, who you need to be around. Your circle is who you are. And so you have your main umbrella of work hard, but then the supports of that umbrella, when you open an umbrella, you have all those supports. Those are going to be, the actual, so, the items that you need to do in order
Yeah.
to be successful.
But the real question, Sean, is where did you fail?
Oh, all the time.
Where have you struggled the most? Did you have a financial event? Did you have a life event? I mean, every entrepreneur has something in their storyline that is very dramatic. And maybe others are afraid of it, or maybe they've gone through it and just didn't see it the same way. What is yours?
So, I had an old lighting company. We did actually the lighting structures in churches and for concerts. We started out doing live music venues, got into churches, and then, my partner and I was handling basically all the back of house stuff. My partner and I was in the field. Ego killed that one. I'm in the field doing all the work. I deserve this. And then just could not meet in the middle. My personal failures, I'm not much of a stock trader, so I like to leave that to my pros, but I've made some major losses, you could say, trying to, hit those one hit wonders, those early Teslas, if you would. You know, Real estate negotiations, trying to prove something when you don't need to prove something, forgetting what the end goal is. A lot of the time, ego is the killer of 99% of deals from what I found. Everyone has a common goal. And in the light of real estate, your seller and your seller's agent want to sell the house. The buyers and the buyer's agent want to buy the house. You all have one common goal. So ego has killed many deals for many realtors. I've seen it happen in the restaurant aspect now. I'm a partner in 2 restaurants. We are soon to be opening a 3rd restaurant out here in Scottsdale. So I've seen my friends who own other restaurants just go belly up because ego. And it's absolutely incredible to watch what that one small thing, which looks like a big thing, just annihilates someone's whole worth.
Yeah, we talk a lot about you can't do a good deal with a bad partner. And the
Correct.
trouble is determining at which point are they a good partner or a bad partner. Do you have
Yep.
any insight into that?
Yeah, so from day one, assume they are a bad partner. It does not matter if it's friends, family, foe, whoever it is. I learned at a very young age, probably 21, 22 years old, with that lighting company, that everything's in contracts. And if they truly are your friends, then they will go, absolutely, that's a genius idea. Because when you go into business with friends, next thing you know, someone feels like they worked harder, or the other person put in a little bit more money because that person has the capital to do so. So if you are going into business with a friend, the first thing I always recommend, and I always do personally now, I've done partnering here on a car storage facility. One of my close friends is the sole owner. We spent thousands of dollars on attorneys just to highlight everything in black and white. So should something go south, hey, this was outlined, man. Hey, this is this. So then there's no hard feelings. So go with, if you're, no matter who you're going into business with, always assume they are the worst partner. An analogy my
Interesting.
attorney once told me is when you get into a car, you put your seatbelt on to protect yourself from an accident. Same thing with business. You're getting into a business with someone, you're going to put contracts in place to protect you, just like
Yeah.
a seatbelt. It is a worst case scenario thing.
Yeah, keep it small until you understand where your success can come from that and who you put in place to help accelerate that success. I think a lot of people feel, maybe I'll say it in my own words and you can translate this into yours, but that you are not able to do something without someone else because if they get involved, it might happen sooner or faster, which always ends up sort of being a desperate maneuver. And especially when people are starting out or getting going in something, they're like, well, I don't know how to do all this. So if I bring this other person in, they could fill that gap. And there's a disjointed connectivity to that first step when they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And they get somebody else in there that doesn't know what's going on either. And pretty soon they're in a conflict relationship tied to something completely irrelevant to the success of the business. And instead they're fighting over nothing.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
fighting
You're
over the
fighting
stars
over something that does not matter at all. Yeah. 100%.
until it matters. But then again, on the other side, people fight over when it's too much money.
Yep.
So how do you figure out along the way that partner who maybe is in the trenches and doing great with you, when the money starts to show up, how do you identify the signs that say something's going to go bad in that partnership? What have you learned?
From what I've learned, identifying the signs is always different because everyone is different. Business is, when you go into business with someone, you're going into business with their personality. So if you're going into business with someone who has a personality of arrogance, quiet, doesn't speak a lot, then you're going to have trouble finding those signs. So the first step that I've always entered into, I think I'm a part of 6 different businesses now. I'm a part of 3 restaurants, escrow company. I have the car storage, obviously my golf company, Swingy. And so what I always look for in a business partner is actually, number one, is how well do you communicate? It sounds almost kind of like a date, but it really is a date. If you're going to go into someone who's got an ego and a hot temper, well, they're your friends now until there's $1 million on the line. And then guess what? That ego and that hot temper is going to be aimed at you. So early on, it's a dating age. It's a dating app almost. It's how do you handle communication? How do you handle stress? How do you handle all this stuff? And then once you get that read on that person, From there, you can kind of decide, okay, this is someone I want to do business with. This is someone I don't want to do business with.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend. I'll leave names out. I've watched him burn 3 or 4 people. And
Yeah.
he recently approached me with an opportunity for some deals across the country where I would have to be 100% reliant on him for the day-to-day operations. And I passed. And he was kind of, dumbfounded at first and called me and wanted to reflect on why I passed. And I straight told him, hey, it's because of what I've seen, how you operate with your other partners. So it's
time and priority. It's management, isn't it? And we talk about this a lot. At least I do. Hopefully others do too. And it sounds like you'll understand what I'm about to say. There's a difference between saying I don't have the time and this is not a priority
yeah,
to somebody,
exactly.
right? This is not a
100%.
priority for these reasons. So
Yeah.
I'm not willing to dedicate this time to that. And you're talking about the first date, first fight scenario. You find out a lot about who your partner is by the way they fight.
Yep.
And
100%. Are they willing to go dirty? Are they above the belt? No, I couldn't agree more. And I love that saying, is it a priority or do you not have the time? Because everyone's got the same 24 hours in a day.
Yep.
So how do you prioritize all 24 of those hours?
I prioritize the things, and the first rule of my life, control the controllables.
Mm-hmm.
If that person isn't in a place where we feel there's a mutual control together, or there's things that I control or I feel like they can control, I have to let go of the things I can't control, and I have to trust in them and verify that they'll do it. At the same
Yep.
time, as I've gotten older and longer in business, a little longer in the tooth, as they say, a little more gray hairs on my sideburns, I'm very, very restricted as to who I involve beyond my primary partnership, who's been around with me for 12 years. We've involved other people in our partnerships and then had to eject them for all kinds of reasons that ultimately didn't pan out, from the no money fights to now there's money coming in and there's a fight about it, or they simply just wouldn't do their part and let it ride on us. So
Yep.
there's a lot of those things with partnership and time management that become, but you're right, they can become bad. But you're right, the communications component of it is experience. You've had a lot of experience. Did any of the time around your table, your uncles, your dad, or anything, did you hear any of their bad business deals that kind of sunk in as you talked through that and listened to that, or did you not follow some of that advice?
A little bit. So that's where I struggle is
Yeah.
early on was my ego was, I'll figure this out. I do learn by being in the trenches. I'm
No.
not someone who can just read a book and pick it up. I have to go in and go, okay, this is how the operation's done. This is the right way. This is the wrong way, and go from there. So, as I gain more experience in life, definitely taking their wisdom with open ears has become something that I try to prioritize. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I still try to take in and calculate as much as I can. I've heard horror stories from them that I've done similar stuff with investors and taken risks on design, remodel, and everything like that, or areas of the valley that they were like, hey, stay away from, but I hit a home run in it. So I take everyone's information, but then I try to process it at my own pace. Hey, was the economy different during this time? Was the style different? Was there no margins, or was there a lot of margins? I have a perfect example. I have a remodel right now where just to get there one way is about an hour and 5 minutes. And when I bought the project, there was a lot of meat on that bone. It was real sweet. So bought the project. First few weeks, driving an hour out, hour back, not a big deal. Well, now we are 90 days in. We're about to close escrow, thankfully. And the meat that was on the bone got pulled back because everyone got their cuts. And now the hour drive time one way isn't worth it. And I have Pops over my shoulder going, oh, wow, should have listened to me on that one, huh?
If anybody's hearing that advice, I encourage you to check out Sean's Instagram right here. Guys, if you're liking this and enjoying this conversation, don't forget to comment. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, share this with somebody who hears and needs to hear this advice, because this is very important. Sometimes we just don't want to listen. We have to experience it ourselves, positively and negatively, before we get the wisdom, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to pivot just a second and ask you a personal question. How has it affected your life? I assume you're married, at least you're wearing a wedding ring. I'm not going to make that sound, your situation. How has that affected your walk in your life with your family?
So, my immediate family, my wife, she knows my work schedule. I'm up early. I'm in appointments and meetings all day, carve out a little time for the gym, family walk time. But then in the night times, for my golf company, I'm doing packaging every night until 9 o'clock-ish. So it's, you kind of have to know what you're signing up for early on. Hence one of the reasons we got married. When we first started dating 5-ish years ago, my schedule was pretty similar. So she knew what she was signing up on. One of the reasons, I got down on one knee is because she supported that goal. She was right there with me on, one day one day on my golf company, we got a few thousand orders. And rather than say, text me, I'll see you later, she was right by my side, opening and packaging and sticking stamps and all that stuff,
Amazing.
because we're growing the company. So I don't have the payroll to do that yet. So as the owner, I'm still packaging and everything else myself. So, she's right by my side doing it. So my immediate family with my wife, it's drawn us together.
That's
And don't get
amazing.
me wrong, it's not all dandelions and rainbows. There's
Well, it
rain.
wouldn't be. It's a marriage, man. It's a compromise. It's
Yeah,
communication. It's like
exactly. So, I have her birthday coming up, and
cool
I just cleared off my whole day because it's her birthday. You have
because
to.
you can. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing, as long as you're able to find that balance, and you really can. People say I'm too busy or I can't do this. It's like, well, the whole point you got into entrepreneurship is to run your own schedule, manage your own schedule. I
So
blocked out
do
the
it.
whole day. Do
Right.
it. Yeah. People, I think the problem is it touches back on ego. If I step away, everything's going to crumble. That's not the truth.
House of cards, right?
Exactly. So, I have a car dealership. If I stepped away, would there be a hiccup? Yes. Would it crumble? No. My real estate team, would it be a big hit? Yes. Would it fall apart? No. So, it's stepping back and going, okay, what is the priority? Am I getting I forget the name of it, but it's basically the main character syndrome. Am I the main character of the story, or am I able to manage my time and step away from it and be able to prioritize what I need to? So,
Yeah.
having a partner who understands that I'm going to have 12, 13-hour long days at the office, but that I'm also willing to do what I need to do to make her a priority when it's important is critical.
That's
My
very smart.
family, my mom, dad, my sister, everyone on the real estate side, they all love it. They're all supporters. They help out. If I have golf meetings or whatever the case is, they're helping out with my real estate stuff. So having a support system is absolutely crucial, I believe, and if you're
Absolutely.
if your family's not available, I can guarantee you there's people you can hire on, help out, create that immediate circle. Like I said in the very beginning, if you don't have friends who aren't willing to support or able to help and give you advice and support, I don't know if they're your friends.
You've actually touched on all my core principles: faith, family, friends, finances, freedom. And there was a
Yep.
bonus I heard you say walk. So fitness, that's one of ours, is getting out every day with my wife and trying to walk at least 4 miles. Some days
Yep.
we miss it due to schedules, kids, we homeschool, things just don't always jive, but we try to do it
Exactly.
almost every day. Sounds like you're following in that same footsteps. And I heard the word golf like 5 times. Is there a golf business behind this too that you're into? You said packages, you're moving 1,000 packages. Are you selling golf products?
Yeah, we are. So
Okay.
about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I partnered with a young gentleman, and in our agreement, I should say, get a little bit more detailed here. I was to basically get this training aid past a patent and approved. And in return, our partnership was that he would then take over and run it, and we would take off and make millions of dollars. Around coffee, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
In reality, it's hard. So it took me about 14 months to get this patent approved. We got a mechanical patent on the training aid. The company is called Swingy. And what this training aid does is basically gives you instant feedback on your golf swing and how to adjust it. And that's how we were able to get this patent on the product. Is when you swing your club through the ball, if you make contact with the training aid, by how much it rotates in the ground is how much you should adjust your swing. And we are the only golf product in the entire world that does this. Everything else is, hey, I just shanked the training aid, or the training aid golf club kind of snapped in my swing. I need to make a full adjustment. My training aid tells you, hey, you need to make a 10% adjustment to hit the ball correctly. Or, hey, you need to make a 60, 70, 40. It gives you that instant feedback of a scalable adjustment. So that's how we got the patents. And that took about 13 to 14 months to get. And from there, of course, once my end of the deal is held up, guess what happens? My partner decided to exit. Crypto was taking off at the time. No blame to him. I'm still good friends with him. He went down a different path. But this is why I think it's important to kind of touch on what I said earlier. I didn't do my research and on who he really was in the beginning before investing hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this patent approved. Okay. And the next thing you know, I'm sitting here with this company by myself going, oh crap. I didn't do my research on my partner, and now he's gone. And the research I could have done in reflecting is he's younger than me. I'm early 30s. At the time, he was early 20s, I want to say, maybe 20. And he had every 18, 19-year-old entrepreneur has a business ADD. bounce here, bounce here,
Dude.
bounce here, bounce here. I got 1,000 ideas,
Uh-huh.
1,000 ideas. They're the master. It was the jack of all, master of none. So
Mm.
when we were finally ready to hit the ground running, long story short, he exited, and I found myself twirling my thumbs. And thankfully, my inner circle came into play, and I put feelers out for anyone who knew somebody in a startup field.
Yeah.
And I met my current partner, Sean. And for the past 14 months now, 15 months, he and myself have scaled this company to basically nothing to doing thousands of units. Yeah. So,
Good for you.
it's
Can I give
all
you a shout
square
out
one.
here, guys? Swingzy.com, just to see if we can get you a few orders, help you out along your way.
I appreciate that. And
Yeah, man, let's give you a shout. That's cool.
it looks like a gimmick, but I promise the people it works.
Yeah, if you're a
Try it
golfer,
out.
I'm not. I'm sorry. But if you are, go check it out because that could be a really fun patented product that you guys might like. And, maybe
Yeah,
Sean
it's
can get a
super
few orders
cheap. It's
off.
durable. It'll help you, with your slice and not divot the ground.
Yep.
And you know what? It's funny you say you're not a golfer. It's for people like you.
Well, no. Okay. So I can use it on the mini putt then because I can.
You could. It'll help with the
All right.
contact.
I'd be the
But
only guy with the best putt score on the
exactly.
thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm the guy they yell at, like, move on. I'm like,
Like,
through,
come on.
dude, straight through.
You got
I
people
have horrible
behind
golf
you.
stories, dude.
No, so the product, I have had a lot of R&D time with this, and one of the reasons I really like it, and people ask the time like, "Oh, you must love golf. You're a huge. How good are you at golf? You own a golf company." I'm terrible. I am not a good golfer. That's one of the reasons why I got into this, because there were times, I look at some of my associates or guys who want to go play golf every weekend. Well, they're shooting incredible games, and I'm out there like, oh guys, I'm in the on the other fairway, or oh, that's my third ball in the pond, or whatever the case is. So I almost felt a little bit inadequate, and didn't want to go out and play golf with some of these guys because they're just way better than I was. So when I got approached with this idea, I was like, wow, this could help me out. I tried it out. Sure enough, it actually worked, and that was actually the signing of the dotted line, was that it worked. It helped me improve my game.
Awesome. Are you guys on Amazon, or is this primarily your website? Are you doing wholesale or multi-channel? Are you doing other
Yeah,
things?
we're on Amazon. We are on our own personal website, swingzy.com. We're sold on Fairway Jockey. We have a few more international stores coming up in Australia and overseas. Yeah, so it's scaling quite nicely, but almost all of it's on e-commerce right now. Few golf pro shops, but that's it.
Fantastic. Well, I love that story because it's one of resilience and tenacity and stepping up to the plate when things don't go right, seeing what you need to do, finding the right person that actually fits in there, which is very key to the success you've had in the last 14 months. So
yeah,
good for you for staying in the fight. I mean, you've got a number of businesses clearly you're doing across multiple segments of business. You are truly a serial entrepreneur. I don't often get to interview people like that, which is super cool to have you on here talking about the different breadth of experience and what you have.
Thanks.
So that's amazing. And I hope everybody else has heard some good things today. If you're a golfer, go check it out. If you understand the meaning of business and entrepreneurialism, hopefully you got something today from today's call. Hey, dude, is there anything I didn't ask you or something you wanted to say that I didn't get to the question yet on, or anything?
No, this was fantastic.
Okay,
I hope the big key takeaway from people is, at the very beginning, we said it sounds cheesy, but don't give up. I can tell you, when my partner left me for the golf company, I wanted to give up. I was so far underwater on this. I didn't know where to go, but things only fail when you fail. So if you keep trying to pump life and pivot into something, that will never fail. It fails when you go, I'm done. And I have let that happen to companies that I look back and go, man, it only took a little bit more work. I could have had that thing up and running. And now I've applied that to my golf company, Swingy, and it's just taken off. So, the main thing is just don't give up, and then have that support system of really, do servant leadership, help, read people, try to get to know people, and, just nothing fails until you fail. So don't give up.
Dude, that's such a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing it. Guys, go check out what Sean's doing. Just follow him on Instagram, or comment, like, share, engage. As always, help us with big tech to get the message out there. If you enjoyed this podcast and the previous one, well, we're coming up on our 200th episode. So shout out to the whole team at High Voltage Business Builders Podcast. I'm going to have a little celebration. We're going to interview one of our client success stories on the 200th coming up here shortly. You're very close, Sean, to the top 200. So I'm so honored to have you on. I'm so grateful that you and I got connected. Got a lot more to share with you in the green room after. I got some ideas and some connections I want to make for you that I think will help you out.
Awesome.
Guys,
that sounds great. Thanks
for joining us. Appreciate it, man. Let's keep talking. As always, guys, share this with somebody who needs to hear a good word about tenacity and perseverance and what it means to be a business person, to know the 5 people around you who can be the most successful, to understand what you can control and should not control in your business, and to remember time management and communication are something you choose to do poorly or well, and you will receive both outcomes, positively or negative. That's why it's called experience, because you cannot get to wisdom without it. So I encourage all of you to get out there and experience something, do something imperfectly, and something perfect will happen along the way. I'll see you guys on the next episode.